Okay then, just another update on this pickup truck. So went ahead and did the most important thing, which was painted the tailpipes. So I got that done. And then I moved on to some other things. Put the new license lights on here. Just put a pair on, and of course the parts stores around here only have one in stock at any one time, so I had to buy one at one parts store and then go to another parts store to get the other one. But they're in, and they're this cheap Dorman junk, and I'm going to come back and probably coat this bumper with something here coming up, so I'm not too worried about the screws being shiny and the rest of it not, because actually those are not the screws that went in there originally. It came with two Phillips types machine screws to hold it in, but the problem is on this bumper there's nothing there to hold it to. It's just little holes in there. It's got a large hole in the center, of course, and it's got two open ones, and there's nothing to, you know, the screw's way too small for that. So what I did was, I don't know if you can actually see it, just holding the camera up, but where you at? Well, anyway, if you see anything on the back up there, I'll know when I edit this to see if you did. But just took two different bolts that I had, two long machines. I don't know what to call them. Doesn't matter anyway, but they're about 1.5 inches long, I guess, and two nuts, and fastened them in. And the thing about it is whoever had this truck before me, and it's not I don't believe it's the person that had it immediately before me, because he was a mechanic, and I don't think he did much to this truck. He didn't use it much, I don't think. But somebody previous to him was certainly not an electrician, because they had these things screwed in, and then they used pieces of plastic at the back to screw them into, and there's no ground there. You know, these things have to ground, so I had to clean all that up, and now they weren't good. So I did that, and then I went back and put my new trailer harness pigtail on there. And can you see what I did wrong? I put the thing on backwards. I got the wrong one to put on backwards. That's the trailer side, that's not the truck side plug. So anyway, I've got to get another one of those and fix that. It's too short anyway, so it's got to be extended out. I've got one, I think the one I took off here is still in the truck up there somewhere. I might try to use it. It looked kind of old, but we'll see. And then it came this morning, when I'm starting on, among other things I'm doing this morning, is this dome light situation. Of course, there's no bulb in it. I took it out while I had the door open and doing some testing, but the problem with that dome light is it doesn't work at all. It doesn't do anything. It's turned this knob, it doesn't do that. It doesn't come on with the doors, even though it's got new door pin switches. And so helpfully, get on the internet, and seems to be a kind of a common thing, because GM, this is the circuit here, this yellow and white wires that go up under the dash, they run directly to the light up there. And the way that works is the orange is 12 volts to the light, which is hot all the time. It has power to it now. And then the white wire is the ground side, so either it grounds when you turn the headlight switch, or it grounds when one of these switches closes here, like right now. But this thing runs under, GM wisely routed that under this deal right here, and it looks like the wires are unprotected. So it seems to be a real common thing that, you see what kind of shape the floor is in right here. So it seems to be a common thing that the wires come apart. So we're going to have to pull this trim plate off here, excavate this screw right there, and there's one back here also. We'll take that off and see if we can find a broken ground wire. Had to use my new impact screwdriver. Thanks, Musty, for recommending that, to get these screws out back here. And I don't really think that there's any real chance that we're going to have any problems with the wires here. This doesn't look that bad. Nah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Everything's fine here. Got the vacuum cleaner out here and kind of clean this up a little bit. I really, as it turned out, didn't have to, but glad I did, because it's getting kind of rusty over here. And this floor pan on this side right here is looking a little thin. Got a hole there, got a hole starting somewhere right there. I think right there. See one there. So something's been leaking here a lot, and I'm going to estimate it's going to be the door seals. Judging by the rust that started along that frame up there. So anyway, turned my attention once I got all this kind of excavated a little bit. I turned my attention to this wire here, and just kind of pulled it up, and I was expecting it to be, our issue to be back down this way. It doesn't look like it. I think I found it here. If we, this wire here, I don't know if that's a speaker wire or what that is, but we're not worried about it. But if where were we? Yep. If we look right here, right there, that would be a broken wire. See that white one? It's broke completely. So, as I said again, that's a good place for GM to route this. You know, I think they did the right thing. I don't think I would have tried to route it up that way at all. I think I like this better. Anyway, sometimes us Americans don't come up with the smartest ideas, do we? All right, well, you know what we do now. Fix a wire. Success. So, I push the door button. All fixed. So if you have one of these square bodies and you lose your dome light and it does not react to the door or to the headlight switch knob being turned, and you have power to it, always look on the ground side of this. Like I said, this is a poor idea. So I went back and patched in another piece of wire there where needed and soldered it in, heat shrinked it, and then I put a piece of conduit just to try to extend its life a little bit. But you know, if this strikes, which I'm not planning to sell it anytime soon, but if we get to doing the work on the metal work and stuff to that point, then we're probably going to have to revisit these wires anyway and do something even better. So in the meantime, I'm going to give this thing a bath. I'm going to order a pedal pad for it, and I may or may not order another coolant reservoir where that one's been all melted and all that crap. Something's been done to it bad. And to fix that, people's been saying on the internet that they don't fit right because they're from China or Singapore. Even the ones that come from General Motors are no good. You wanted cheap, you got cheap. So be glad about it. And I may go look in the junkyard for one, but I haven't ever had real success with that stuff around here. So we'll see. One other thing I wanted to do while I was out here, mold off here, it's like a bath, but so I want to take a look back under here at this transmission because it's got a leak, and I wonder if it's still leaking, which it is. And up at the front up here, I tightened the bolts a little bit. They weren't really that loose, but it's got looking sorry for the angle. It's kind of crazy here, but you can't really see too well possibly, but it looks like it's just coming out of the pan gasket. But I'm suspicious of that because if you look over here, somebody's globbered a piece of weld on this thing like it took a hit and they had to fix it. This pan looks like hell anyway. It's all beat up and stuff, so you can get a new aluminum pan which doesn't suffer the problems these do pretty cheaply. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and grab one of those coming up pretty soon. Hopefully I'll fix that. But you'll see the way it's running. It's running right across the front right there. It's not so much coming around here. There is a little bit right there around that bolt area, but I've already established it's not coming from the lines or the fill tube or anything like that. So that's what's going on. It's been sitting here. It didn't drip as much as it did, but I bet that's what's going on. I bet somebody tried to do a half-ass weld on it. It didn't work. So this transmission, by the way, the tag is, you can't read it. Don't don't even worry about trying to read it, but the transmission, I ran the tag on it, and it's the original. So the guy said it had been replaced. That was incorrect. It had not. It feels like it's been rebuilt though, because it engages nice and strong. And sometimes if the idle's up too high, like a fast idle, and you put it in reverse, man, it just wham right in reverse. And people have shared the info that usually that's because it's been rebuilt, and they have taken what's called a wave plate out of the clutch packs. And what a wave plate does is basically it's like a delay. When you engage reverse or drive, then when your clutch assembly with the clutch packs in it get fluid pressure to engage and cram together, then the wave plate is there. GM put them there, and other makes also, as sort of a cushion. It's essentially what it does, so it doesn't, wham in the gear like that. So anyway, I don't care one way or the other about that, because it works. That's all I care about. So all right, guys, well, I'm gonna get on with some other things. I think I'm gonna give this thing a bath and give that car a bath. Neither of them have had one in a long time, and all that. And I have to go out on one of my work trips again this week, so I'll be leaving in a few hours. Blah blah blah. So anyway, I'm just thankful for the pretty day today, and thankful for you guys tuning in. And as I always say, this is not a big money channel. We don't have big money cars here. Don't have the big money to spend. We're just a regular guy like all the rest of you, just doing what we can to have some fun and keep these old vehicles running and fix them up a little bit, and try to discourage people from doing the wrong thing when they're working on stuff. So anyway, 63 in power says appreciate you. Alrighty then, so I took this truck to Huntsville today to hang out with Uncle Phil for a while, and you'll see that in another video. But that was about a 80-mile round trip, somewhere along those lines, with the run around that we did in town, and that gave me a good opportunity to kind of assess this truck some more and just sort of prioritize what it needs right now. And it does need some more attention before it can really be driven, just all the time and everywhere without issue. And I didn't have any issues, but just a few things I noted. Probably the number one thing to be addressed on this is to figure out why it's pulling when you put the brakes on. And it definitely does. It heads to the left every time you put the brakes on pretty good, and then you let off, it heads back that way. So kind of leaning towards, without really knowing what's wrong with it, I'm really leaning towards a brake issue as opposed to just being out of alignment, because that's pretty severe and it doesn't pull. Even though the steering is a little bit darty on it, like it's towed in too much or something, it doesn't, that seems excessive. So I did a little bit of impromptu testing here in the driveway when I came home, and just put the brakes on pretty good, and it seemed like the left front wheel would lock up and the right one would not, right front. So somebody has put a new brake hose on the left and they did not on the right, so I don't know what's up with that, but that may be something tied into that. So we may just go ahead and get us a new brake line and look to see how the calipers operating and all that, and get that squared away, because that's pretty dangerous. It tries to head into the next lane, and that's just not acceptable. So that's probably going to be the number one, the first thing on the list. And then for whatever reason, the idle speed dropped when I got into town. I noticed it had idled lower than it had been idling, and that wasn't in and of itself a problem really, because it's probably idling a little lower now than it really should be. But the thing about it was before it was idling a little bit too fast, and it would diesel every time you turn the ignition off. So I don't know. Something with maybe the choke or the linkage or something like that has either freed itself up or whatever. But I'll get into that at some point. But it's running okay. It started every time easily, did not stall, so no problems there. And Next thing I notice, and I see it doing it right now, is I got an antifreeze leak coming from somewhere up here. There's a telltale sign there, and I see it coming right. I can tell you now, that's not the hose, because I'm seeing the hose behind it, and it's not the hose. I have a good idea. I'm going to set you guys down for a second and pop this hood open. Well then, okay, that's not what I was afraid of. I was afraid the radiator was doing that, but the radiator's high and dry. It is our overflow leaking. And that, let me tell you, that's just shocking that that thing is leaking. Somebody has tried to revive this thing with Gorilla Glue, looks like, and that didn't work. So all the leakage has been doing down. Alright, well, that's that. So this thing's awful. I didn't even know it had anything in it. I guess it does. It's got some sort of mud-like coolant in it. I guess that's coolant. This thing's... And there again, I've been reading some reviews on the internet to say that these things, the ones you get, the replacements, even the ones that GM has the gall to sell, are not near as good. The fitment's not near as good. So let's just open that up, won't we? Yeah. There you go. There's a big old crack right in the side of it. Yeah, that fixed it. What we got over here? Another crack or a hole or what? Yeah. A nest over there. What other car did I have that had this going on? I think it was that. Oh, I think it was that Focus I had for a while, that green one. I think that was the same deal. Somebody was so damn cheap they wouldn't replace the coolant overflow, which is, you know, kind of critically important. That, I mean, this thing's leaking stuff everywhere. Set up a long time. But anyway, how cheap can you be? These things are like, what, $30 to replace this bottle? God. Everybody's just so determined that they're going to save up that money. You go blow it on a couple packs of cigarettes, but you won't put a coolant reservoir on there. So anyway, I could find one. I think I've talked about this already, but I could find one at the junkyard, but usually the junkyard versions are hashed and broken. They're as bad as this one, or they're gone. So anyway, I'll have to give you a little sneak preview. Phil and I didn't talk about this on the camera when we were making his video clips today, but Phil asked me to look for him a stove if I ran across one, and a cook stove, and I said, all right, sure. He said, yeah. I said, I burned another blew another burner out last night, and it caught on fire. So evidently, I tell you, man, Phil runs stuff down to it's just dangerous, you know. Never heard of a stove eye catching on fire like that, but okay. And the funny thing is, I don't think that's the first time. He and I lived. One day, hopefully, we're going to take a tour around down south. When he and I kind of we both lived in Guntersville, and we actually did live in the same neighborhood there for a while, and we were both. He still didn't have much money, and I didn't have much money back then, so we rented these houses that were adjoining, like his was behind mine, from the same guy, and they were nice enough houses, but they were old and had some issues. And so Phil's house, I think the first thing happened to it was he turned the oven on, and it smelled like some animal had died in there and was burning. And then I think the fuse box shorted out. And then the third thing I think happened was the water heater blew up in the middle of the night, and he woke up about 12 o'clock at night and put his feet down in about 2 inches of water, so hot water. So old Phil is very good at wearing stuff out, tearing it up. When he gets done with it, it's worthless. I mean, there's no fixing it. It's done. All right, guys. Well, got other things on my plate right now to deal with, so I'm just basically using this truck around town. So we'll tinker with it off and on till it starts warming up, and then we'll probably about springtime we'll do some belts and hoses and do a little bit more visual stuff with it. Do something about this chrome bumper. That's a good bumper. I really don't want to paint that bumper, but it kind of clashes. It looks kind of stupid with the rest of it not chrome. So, alright, well, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.